morning. Today's date is January 27th, 2024. My name is Kelly Zakovic. I'm representing the City of Savannah Municipal Archives, and I am interviewing
Altheria, Maynard.
Ruth, Teasley.
For the Savannah Community Memory Project, and we're conducting this interview at the Liberty City Community Center. So thank you for joining us today, and I'll let you guys introduce yourself a little bit more and then share with us what you've come here to talk about today.
Okay. Altheria Maynard, a longtime resident of the Cann Park neighborhood. I grew up in Cann Park. My family moved to Cann Park in 1954. My father built our home, and the architect was Bill Hayes. When we moved in Cann Park, there were a few houses on the 700 block of West 46th Street. Dirt roads and lost my train of thought. Our neighborhood was predominantly black. We were a very close-knit community where everyone looked out for the neighbors and especially the children. Beach High School was an integral part of our community, and they had a child development program which I attended for nursery school. We had a wonderful park with supervised activities. The park was the hangout after school. The City of Savannah had a park attendant, Miss Crawford, and it was a safe place to play. Cann Park is fortunate to have 3 schools in our neighborhood, which is a rarity in the black community. During segregation, our community was flourishing with teachers, principals, dentists, medical doctor, entrepreneurs, social workers, college professors, cafeteria manager, secretaries, cooks, ministers, morticians, funeral directors, policemen, librarians, construction workers, factory workers, postal workers, public health workers, cab drivers, railroad workers, nursing assistants, professional athletes, brick masons, musicians, restaurant owners, caterers, civil rights activists, professional dancers, and counselors, just to name a few. The neighborhood took pride in their homes and property. There was little crime in our neighborhood. There was a lot of family parties in which everyone participated. And fast forward to the 21st century, our neighborhood is changing into a culturally diverse neighborhood. There are now more single-parent households, more renters, abandoned houses, lack of pride in taking care of homes and properties. Gentrification is occurring, more blue-collar workers, and crime is increasing.
I also moved to the Cann Park neighborhood in 1954 when there were few homes on the street that I lived. But also in the neighborhood were there were many people that lived there with notable positions. As she said, many hats. And just a few that I would like to mention. My neighbor, Mrs. Kendricks, was the only black female shoe repair person, and she was segmented in Ebony and Jet magazine. And her granddaughter, Altheria Maynard, she was the senior director of the nutritional program of Chatham County Schools. And there were also some other notable people that I would like to mention. Mickey Stevens, he grew up in the Cann Park neighborhood, and he became a state representative. And also on 45th Street, there were 3 doctors that I know of that lived on the same street, Dr. Matthew, Dr. Cooper, and Dr. Wilson. There may have been more that I can't remember. And also my brother grew up in the Cann Park neighborhood. Robbie Robinson, he was a lawyer, he became a lawyer. And he was also the first black alderman for the 5th District. And well, we had many people that owned their own businesses. There were McLaughlins that lived on 45th Street. They owned the grocery store. and there were many other businesses. The West family owned a laundromat in the neighborhood, and I think the Stevens family ran a dry cleaners business. And there were many confectionery stores. The Donaldson and Smith Snack Bar were located across from Beach High School. And this is where the youth could meet and socialize in a safe environment. So I think I've covered most that I can remember. But the Cann Park neighborhood is well to remember as a safe and beautiful place to live.
And Tammy Stokes Judge, her grandfather owned a confectionery on West Broad Street. We have a very active neighborhood association that includes Jackson Park neighborhood. The association and board meets monthly at the First Nazareth Missionary Baptist Church on the first Thursday of each month, with the exception of July and August. And our meeting begins at 6 o'clock. And past neighborhood administration, Ms. Thelma Marshall was president at one time. Mr. Sawyer was president. Ms. Benton was our financial secretary. Carmelita Maynard was past president. And Matthew Southall Baum and Dorothy DeVillos were active in the association. And it is my desire to see our neighborhood transform back to what it was in the 60s, where we knew our neighbors, and we would like to rebuild a flourishing community to enhance its Citizens Street in Savannah, Georgia.
Also, I would like to mention that it was such a safe neighborhood that we could walk in the neighborhood at night without fear of being harmed, because there was hardly no crime in the neighborhood at that time in the 50s. It's a very safe neighborhood.
Anything else you'd like to share before I start asking questions?
No.
So where do you guys live now?
I live in my grandmother's house. My grandmother was Myrtle Kendricks, and she learned to repair shoes from her husband. And from that income, she was able to purchase her house at 708 West 46th Street, where I currently live. And she sent my mother to South Carolina State College.
Have you lived in the neighborhood your whole life?
Mostly, I moved away when I graduated from college. I lived in Atlanta. And then I moved back home, I guess in the 80s. And I moved away and lived in another part of Savannah. And then after my mother died, I moved back to help take care of my father.
I still live in the family house on 46th Street. I'm the neighbor to Altheria. And I lived there, I grew up there, went to high school at Beach. But when I married, I moved to New Jersey. But after my husband passed, I moved back to take care of my parents who were ailing.
Can you tell us your parents' names?
My mother was Thelma Kendrick Maynard, and my father was Alfred Maynard. I have one sibling who's passed, Carmelita Maynard, and she was past president of our neighborhood association.
My parents were Robert Robinson, and my mother's name was Edna Robinson. They were the parents of Robbie Robinson, the alderman from the 5th district, the first black alderman.
You sort of mentioned, but when you were growing up, where all did you go to school?
Okay, I went to Hodge Elementary School, and then they changed the district, and I moved to DeRenne Elementary School. And then from there, I went to Beach Junior High School, and then ultimately high school was Beach High. All of our schools at that time were located on Hopkins Street, and we lived in walking distance. And people that taught at our schools were also part of our community, and they went to the same church. So the teachers knew you. They knew what to expect from you. And you had to conduct yourself very professionally. If not, your parents would know. And I don't know how they did it, but if you got in trouble in school, they knew before they got home, and there were no cell phones. It was just ironic that everybody was able to make you a part of their family, and it was very community oriented. Everybody knew everybody. We didn't lock our doors, and if you got into trouble, you were chastised by any neighbor or any adult within your community.
You have mentioned some of them, but would you like to tell us more about any important leaders in your neighborhood throughout its history?
Well, the church has played a big part in civil rights. And
Which church is that?
I went to St. Matthew's Episcopal Church that's located on M.L. King. And Father Caution was there when I was born. He baptized me. He married my parents, and they lived on 44th Street. And you were just taught to be better. Because of segregation, they could tell us why we needed to do certain things, why we needed to dress a certain way, why we needed to learn how to speak properly, so that we could become productive members in our community and be an asset to our race and community and our schools. And my parents also went to Beach High School. That's the legacy that we have. And if I have achieved anything in my life, it is because of the church, the schools, and my community.
I didn't attend elementary school in the Cann Park area, but I did attend, I would walk to Kyle Junior High School, and then I attended Beach Senior High School. I finished with Beach High School, which was in the neighborhood. That was in walking distance, a few blocks from my house.
And are there any individual community leaders that you'd like to share any stories about?
W.W. Law lived on Victory Drive, and it was interesting. I didn't really know him, and I picked him up one day and I said, well, I know who you are. I said, but I don't think you know me. He said, oh yes, I know you. I know exactly where you live. I know your parents. I know your grandparents. And he said, I want to thank you because you chose to come back to your neighborhood and renovate your grandmother's house to make your community great again. You had the means to move wherever you wanted to in Savannah, but it's commendable that you took enough pride in yourself and wanting to enhance your community again.
And my brother worked with W.W. Law in the civil rights marches, the two integrate Tiny Beach. He was one of those swimming at Tiny Beach, and also with some of the marches that integrated the other places that were segregated during that time.
And he also went to Savannah High, didn't he?
And he went to Savannah.
Yeah,
He was the
and-
first, one of the first students to go and integrate the schools during that time. And he graduated from Savannah High.
And how was that?
Well, it was difficult, but he stuck it out to the end, and he managed to graduate and then attend Savannah State, where he received a high honor from his graduation. And then after that, he went to Athens to finish law school.
Are there any other individuals we should know about?
Dr. Stephen McDougall, he was an OBGYN and a general practitioner. And he practiced at Charity Hospital. My father's sister, Edith Maynard Brown, was an LPN, and she specialized in OBGYN nursing there. I was born in Charity Hospital. My sister Carmelita was born in Charity Hospital. And back in the day, there were only two hospitals that we had, Georgia Infirmary and Charity Hospital.
And my mother also was a nurse, and she also worked at Charity Hospital.
So you mentioned the neighborhood association. Would you like to tell us more about it?
We have revamped it and it's now flourishing again. The city merged us with Jackson Park neighborhood. So we have two neighborhoods in one. And like I said, we meet at First Nazareth Missionary Baptist Church on the first Thursday at 6 o'clock every month. And we are working to try to get a neighborhood center. The past alderman for the county, Larry Gator Rivers, promised us. So Chairman Chester Ellis is working to secure land for us to get a resource center. And once we get a resource center, we want to have it for our seniors, and also we want it to be a tutoring center for the 3 schools that reside within this neighborhood.
I also forgot to mention that Virginia Edwards Maynard was the first black female superintendent of schools, also grew up in the Cann Park neighborhood. So we had many notable positions, people that did well.
Yeah, Mary Matthews, she had a clothing store. She lived in the 700 block of 46th Street. There was a bar owner, the Williams, that lived on 45th Street. Martha Wilson was a professor at Savannah State University, which was college then. She lived on 45th Street. Her husband was a dentist, and they also went to St. Matthews. Dr. McDougall lived on 45th. He also is a member of St. Matthews. Dr. Redden was a dentist. He lived on 45th, and he also went to St. Matthews. So it was a real sense of community. We took pride in our community, and church, school was the basis for our existence. And during segregation, there weren't many places that we could go. There was a foot-long hot dog stand on Victory Drive and West Broad. There was Dairy Queen on 52nd and Montgomery. There was Madison's on Ogeechee Road.
And there was also the Tumors that lived in our neighborhood, and I don't recall.
They were realtors, and he started Carver Bank, which is a black bank, Carver State Bank, which is now run by Robert James and his son.
So you can see that the Cann Park neighborhood was made up of many people with notable positions. A beautiful place to live and a safe place to live.
The business owners, were there businesses within Cann Park, or were
No, they were out in the city, somewhere in Cann Park.
We had corner stores that were within Cann Park. There was a store right across from Beach High School that the Smiths ran. And then Donaldson's was
right across
on 47th and Hopkins.
Mm-hmm. And also the West family that were in the Cann Park neighborhood, they ran laundromat.
Mm-hmm. And they had rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
There was a dry cleaners on 47th and Stevens.
A Simmons family lived in the Cann Park neighborhood. I can't recall the street they lived, but they ran a mattress business.
So our community was self-sustaining, and we patronized the people in our community.
So you mentioned the park. Would you like to tell us more about the park and what you guys did for fun in the neighborhood as kids?
Miss Crawford was our park attendant. She knew us. We had organized activities after school and during the summer. We had a lot of playground equipment. We had sprinklers. We had a merry-go-round, swings, and a seesaw. And it was a safe place to be. And your parents did not have to worry about you, because they knew that you were there and you were being taken care of.
Any other activities you guys got up to as kids?
Well, you played in the backyard, you would walk to friend's house and you always had to be home before the street lights came on. And I asked my mother, what time? She said, you will figure it out, but you have to be home before the street lights come on.
So you mentioned Jackson Park. Can you tell us the boundaries of Cann Park and maybe the boundaries of Jackson Park? Do you know them?
Not off the top of my head. I can get that information for you.
So you mentioned your church. Were there any other churches that were significant for the neighborhood?
Butler Presbyterian was on Victory Drive, and Boroughs. And I'm not sure how long First Nazareth Missionary Baptist Church was in existence. And I can't think of any other churches
No, neither can I.
that are in our community.
But we had many ministers that lived in our neighborhood. The Reverend Benton, he was the pastor of Tremont Temple Baptist Church. And what was the other pastor? Reverend, can you think of the other pastors? Reverend Brown.
And Reverend Brantley.
Yeah, Reverend Brantley. I don't know the church that he pastored to, but he was a minister. That lived on 44th Street, Levi and his father.
Reverend Moore.
Reverend Moore. I don't know the church that he pastored, but he was a minister.
And I didn't realize that Reverend Brown lived in Liberty City before he moved to Cann Park. He was a minister of the Mighty Fortress, and he was a postal worker. He went to South Carolina State. His sister, Helen Fletcher, went to South Carolina State. My mother, Thelma Maynard, went to South Carolina State. Miss Fletcher was superintendent of our Sunday school at St. Matthew's, and she was also a teacher at Haven Home and Pearl Smith. My mother taught at Tompkins Elementary for 18 years before integration started. Then she was moved to Hess Elementary, and then she retired from Hurd Elementary. And a lot of black teachers had master's degrees because they could not go to the University of Georgia. Because of segregation, they paid them to go to other colleges, and they gave us a stipend.
So what would you have like a favorite memory of Cann Park?
Just having a safe and nurturing community to grow up in.
And not having fear to walk about your neighborhood of anything that would harm you.
Were there any traditions or annual events for the neighborhood at all?
Well, back then, you would have your birthday parties at home in your backyard. You would visit friends within the neighborhood. I can remember us having a croquet set, and we used to play dodgeball. But everything was centered either in the community or activities from your church.
A lot of and some of the activities we would have for the young people, we would have called weenie roasts. And we would have them in the backyard where we would light fires and we would roast weenies and play music and just socialize in that way. And that was a fun activity for the children in the community.
And then Dr. Collier started the cotillion for young women. My sister was a debutante. I chose not to be one, but that was the coming out, and that was mentioned in the movie of The Garden of Good and Evil.
Did that happen in the neighborhood, or was that all across
That
the
was
Savannah?
across the city. And you would be selected by one of the fraternities, the Alphas, and your name would be submitted, and you were approved or not approved, and you had social activities, and the coming out was a big cotillion ball.
And someone I forgot to mention that was an entrepreneur, Lester, that owned, he was the proprietor of the Lester Florist on 37th and Bull. He grew up in the Cann Park neighborhood.
And he started off making paper flowers and ended up decorating the White House. Yeah.
So Cann Park was just a wonderful place with wonderful neighbors that we grew up in the 50s. But it's not like that now, it's much different.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how it's changed?
Well, integration changed. I think that people wanted to be more fluent. They wanted to live in a different neighborhood. And then the black neighborhoods sort of had a downward spiral. Now we see gentrification because we are close to the downtown area. You are seeing different nationalities coming in. We have Hispanic people in our neighborhood. We also have some white people in our neighborhood, and that's the first. They're coming in trying to purchase most of the houses in the neighborhood. I get calls 2 and 3 times a week. I get postcards wanting to buy my property.
So do I.
Mhm. And that's different. Beach is now a medical magnet. Hopefully we will see a better change. I'm not sure what will happen with the new superintendent in Savannah. She's advocating for neighborhood schools. Like I said, we are fortunate that we have 3 schools within our neighborhood, but most black communities have just an elementary school. And not all black communities have that. Cloverdale has Butler Elementary. Carver Village used to have, what was the name of that school?
I can't go.
Goodness, I can't think of the name, but that's closed now.
And what has changed also that most of the residents in the 50s are now deceased. And so they were homeowners, but now we have a lot of rental places and places that are not kept up and boarded up because of the fall of the neighborhood.
And people have left property to more than one person. And that's an issue, trying to get them to maintain the property. It's heirs property. And we are working closely with our code enforcement person to make sure that the grass is maintained and to keep the neighborhood safe.
Yes, because people own their own homes, they care more about keeping it clean, safe, and beautiful.
Okay, so my last official question, 50 years from now, what do you hope people know about Cann Park?
That we were a thriving community, that we cared about our residents, and that we were able to produce great people from our area.
Okay.
And I think in 1967, from Beach High School, they had at least 10 people that graduated in 1967 that became doctors. That's a great legacy. When I went to the child development school at Beach in 1955 through 1956, Otha Douglas was the principal there. Then Joe Green, and then Richard Moe. And these are people that we grew up with, their children. They were either they went to Butler or they went to St. Matthew's. So we just had a lot of people that went on to do great things that originated out of Cann Park, Jackson Park, Collar Village.
Is Is there anything else that we want to make sure we cover?
I think that's all I can think of.
It's all I can call.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
All right.